The NFL draft is creeping ever closer, so we need to break down more of the possible Browns prospects. Who might they draft? Who should they be keeping an eye on? And of course, it's mock draft season, so we're going to be doing a 2-round mock draft simulator. Let's get to the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba-lubba hub.
It's gonna be sick.
Hello, everybody. Who's ready for the NFL draft? We're almost there. Right? It's getting close. It is next week. Just a week away, and we will be ready to see what the Browns do at number 2. We think all the popular theories have gone to Travis Hunter. Makes sense to me. I like it. I'd be down with that. Shying away from the quarterback. Which quarterback will it be and where? Boy. And how about Will Howard, my guy? Write it on the sticky note. We're going to have that on draft night. Live draft show coming up. Will Howard, no matter what for me. Him saying, you passed on me. It's a mistake. He'll make everybody pay. That guy just looks like the all-American boy, Captain America, to suit at the White House. He looks celebrating the national championship. Give me Will Howard. Damn it. I want to know what you guys think. What quarterback do you want the Browns to draft? Tell me. Leave it in the comments. Hit us up on socials. X at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram at AndyMC Sports. Of course, click subscribe. Notifications on. We're going to be doing a live draft show. You do not want to miss that. We'll talk to you live throughout the show. Throughout the first round of the draft. It's going to be a ton of fun. So subscribe, notifications on. Let's rock and roll. Of course, the big news, I put the video out at the morning it happened on last Friday. Joe Flacco's back. Flacco fever. I'm still feeling good about it. He was doing some radio interviews with our buddies at ESPN Cleveland and just seems happy to be here. And we'll see. Quarterback competition. Can he pick it? Right? Should win it. But what does the rookie look like? A lot of questions. So Flacco's back. We're feeling good. And of course, pre-draft, and he's done such a phenomenal job on Cleveland.com and on this program, many times on his socials, breaking down the film to get to know Browns free agents who we brought in, who I'm excited about, as well as draft prospects. Let's bring in our buddy, Cleveland high school football coach and contributor to Cleveland.com, Lance Reisland. Back to the show. Lance! How you doing, sir?
I'm well, Andy. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. I found it so funny because I was telling people after, like last time we had John was the free agents, and we talked about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and the defensive tackle. And I was like, yeah, Lance got me excited. I'm pumped now. I like these guys.
Well, especially when they do those free agents, sometimes it's not the sexiest pick, right? But you got to fill holes, and you got to fill holes with guys who have length and the things the Browns like to do. I think the free agents, I think it's very underrated what they did free agent wise. So obviously they got to have a good draft. I think the Browns really need to hit on some guys rounds 4 through 7 where they've struggled. Obviously the quarterback position I've changed just because I think Flacco, I think they've changed. I still think they need a young quarterback, but I think more than anything, they need to find a quarterback they believe in. And if this is the bridge guy, I'm not a big on that term just because football's about winning. It's not about bridge to the next guy. You got to win. So hopefully they feel Flacco and or Pickett and or somebody else they get can do that for them.
Some sort of combo. They added as well another defensive end, Aquara, I believe, who was coming from the Cardinals, drafted by the Lions 3rd round, which, Lance, the amount of free agents with the youth still coming back with Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire, and you had Shoyinka there, that, to me, solidifies that they're not taking Abdul Carter at 2. They've had enough rotational pieces now put in place to not that you don't need a guy like Abdul Carter, but it seems like you added there. You've done nothing at receiver. I think it's Travis Hunter. What do you think?
Well, I agree with Abdul Carter. I have not been as high on him just because of his 251 pounds. Now, when you look at Abdul Carter, they showed him working out. He is a thick kid, but I'm not sure how much room for improvement is there. And right now, he's a 3rd down pass rush specialist. He struggles with teams that, if I'm facing him, he's such a talented guy off the edge. I'm running right at him, and I'm getting those big 300-pound tackles right at him. So The Browns have, he doesn't really fit the what the Browns like to do, defensive end, defensive tackle. They like those guys who are in that 6'4", 6'5", 260 to 280 range that can play multiple positions. Guys who have length, guys who can come off the edge, guys who are one gap penetrators. Abdul Carter is a really, really good player. I have some questions on him just because he's had some injury issues. Just because he's just his frame. He's such a well-built young kid. I think he'll be successful. I'm not sure if it's what the Browns need, and I'm not sure how much more weight he can put on and things like that. Obviously, there's guys who do that, but if I'm the GM, I'm shying away from that. For simply what you said, though, they got some pieces down on the defensive line.
Yeah, and Abdul Carter could end up being, we've heard, used like a Micah Parsons, off-ball linebacker. You can tweak it. Depends on the creativity of the defensive coordinator, just maybe not the fit for Cleveland. We're going to take a look at some possible fits for the Browns that you've put out in some recent articles on Cleveland.com with your tremendous film breakdown here. Now, we'll start with, first of all, before we get to the three, Travis Hunter, just your thoughts overall. The Browns take him at 2. You give him the thumbs up? You like it?
I do, and here's why. Now, obviously, people taking a defensive tackle. My favorite guy, my number one guy in the draft is Mason Graham out of Michigan, just because of his size and just as an offensive coordinator, has nothing to do with at all. I think Travis Hunter is a tremendous talent. However, when you're 185 pounds, you want to play both ways. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body. Everybody's asked me, can he do it? I absolutely believe athletically he can do it. But that's a pounding, and I'm not sure how healthy you can stay. Athletically, he's a unicorn. He is a really elite athlete, incredible ball skills, incredible hips. He can do everything you want as a receiver and as a DB. In fact, if he played one, he'd probably be the top guy at each position if he's not already. So I think they might go with Travis Hunter, and I'm not against that pick. For me as an offensive corner, I can stay away from a corner. I can also stay away from an edge guy with chips and things like that. But when you get a record like Mason Graham inside 320, can play 3 downs. Those are the guys that are really, really hard for me to block and really, really hard for me to game plan. A lot of coordinators feel the same way, but you can't go wrong with. I think all 3 of those guys, Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Mason Graham. Those are my top 3 guys, like they are for a lot of guys. But if I had to pick, I'm not sure I would take a defensive tackle at 2, maybe trade down a little bit and take Graham. But if you're staying at 2, I think Hunter's got to be the pick just because of his versatility.
It's interesting, too, that this is the first time since the 1970s that every team has their own first-round draft pick. Usually we've seen trades in years past, current, whatever. We've seen some pre-draft shuffling. I haven't had that this year. So I'll be very interested to see what the trade up, trade down. Maybe it'll be more of a day 2 trading up into the from the 3rd round to the 2nd, because we know, Lance, that like the depth here, the depth at defensive tackle, depth at receiver, tight end. There's a lot of guys that maybe you don't need to take in round 1, but come day 2, you're like, I don't want to miss out on that guy. Maybe I'll jump up.
Well, yeah, and I think everybody has their own opinions on the Deshaun Watson trade. When they made that trade, I've said it, and I'll stick to it. I love the trade. I love when they went out and got him. He was the best quarterback option. He was a top 5 guy. It just didn't work out. Sometimes you roll the dice and it doesn't work out, but what ends up happening is that, and it's new for me too, is that the lack of depth, right? They didn't have those first-round picks, so you're unable to get depth at position. You're unable to get impact players that can play day 1 at those positions. They've done a decent job with some of their late-round picks, but they got to be better now on rounds 4 through 7. This is the draft because of what Deshaun Watson, in terms of losing that draft capital, they have to really hit on most of their draft picks this year. And there's like you said, positions of need. They have there's great depth. They can get high quality players on day 3 at a bunch of the positions they need.
Well, let's go through some of them. Now, the first player we'll look at is a rising wide receiver. Obviously, if they take Travis Hunter at 2, this player is going to be out. But if they do get overwhelmed or trade down a little bit and get somebody else, then this player would be up for grabs, and that is Luther Burden, who is popping up the board. Producer Shane, pop up the clip there that we have, if you don't mind. And Lance, take us through it.
Well, you're going to see here, Luther Burden is my favorite receiver this year. Just simple fact what he's doing here. He's going to run a little jet sweep. Then you're going to see him out of the backfield. He creates mismatches. Now they got to have a backer on him, or they got to move a defensive back inside. So he does a lot of those things. The thing I like about him, he's the best run after catch guy in the draft, in my opinion. The ability to get easy yards, you're going to see here, just a simple out route, and then he's going to put his foot in the ground and get vertical, and he does this very, very well. And what I like about Luther Burden is his ability to get the ball in space. The Browns need right now, the Browns on offense, the last couple of years, they've had to be perfect, and you have to go 10 to 12 plays to score. Now, they've done a good job of that in the past, but when you don't have elite quarterback play, you see, and everybody's in terms of penalties and turnovers and things like that. And, everybody says that's because they're not really well coached. Well, I kind of disagree with that a little bit in terms of you have to be able to create big plays. You cannot go 10, 12, 15 plays every time and expect these guys not to make mistakes. That happens at every level of football, and I'll stick to that. However, if they can get a guy that once in a while you throw out there, you don't make a lot of people, you don't block a lot of people, you don't do it right, and he makes a big play for you. That helps your offense. That creates momentum. So my thought on Burden is that he's a run after catch guy. Now, if they do take Hunter, do they think of Hunter as a DB first? And if they think about him as a DB first, then I think he falls into what the Browns really need on offense too, in terms of just the touch guy. So on offense, when people ask me how good of a receiver is, I wouldn't consider Hunter. I don't consider Burden really receivers. I consider them touch guys. And on those big call sheets that you see all those NFL guys have, we all kind of do the same thing, situational stuff. But there's at the top of most people's call sheet is just touches. And there's guys who just need touches. And however you get them their touches, that's irrelevant. Could be receiver, running back, whatever you got to do, reverses, you name it, slot, outside, inside. So I think for me, Burden, if they don't take Hunter at 1, then you go with Burden at 33, just because of his ability to run after catch. They need a guy to get him easy yards. They have not had that in a while. And obviously Hunter can do that too. And that would be my plan with Hunter. I would start him. I would focus him on defensive back, and then I wouldn't overthink it on offense. I'd create touches for him.
It'll be interesting because Andrew Berry was the first one to consider publicly Hunter as a receiver first. So it'll be very interesting to see how that translates. They can certainly change their mind, and that was early, how that translates and goes out. Luther Burden III, Missouri Tigers, 5'11", 208. And you know what? Could be like a Deebo Samuel-like type of weapon. Like you said, get the ball in the guy's hand. Doesn't need to have a position per se. Don't put him in a box. Let him go. So Luther Burden, that's what he's looking like there. Now we go to another part of the offense, Lance, that is desperately needing depth. You mentioned depth earlier. That's tight end. We got David Njoku and a guy named Blake Whiteheart. That's not going to cut it in the revamped Stefanski offense. We need 4. We need to draft a guy, maybe 2, and then add a vet as well. You like, and I also like, Harold Fannin. Let's pull that guy up, Shane, and take a peek-see at Harold Fannin here.
Well, actually, you're going to see here, Harold Fannin is going to start with a corner route against Texas A&M. Again, another tight end. This is a unique guy. He's only 241 pounds, but he's another run-after-catch guy. He's a mismatch guy, and you're going to see him here. He runs a very good seam route, so they're going to fake a little toss here and then just kind of hit him on a dig route, little seam route inside. But what he does is he attacks the middle of the field very well. He attacks the seams very well. He runs after catch very well. You're talking about a guy who had 117 receptions for 1,500 yards last year at BG. Now, one of the arguments is that he doesn't, he plays in the MAC. Well, the MAC is very good football, but some of his best games were against Texas A&M and other Power 5 schools. Now, what he gives you at tight end is he gives Kevin Stefanski what he likes. Now, I still think they need an inline tight end with Njoku. I still think they need maybe a bigger guy who can flex out a little bit. But what this guy will do, I think Fannon's got to be able to play a little bit of fullback. If you think about when they go 12 personnel, just to kind of give them a little bit more power run game, just a little bit. But he's a guy who creates mismatches. And what Kevin Stefanski likes to do is get in that 12 personnel. If you go regular personnel, they're going to throw the ball, and those guys are going to have mismatches against tight ends or safeties. If they go nickel personnel, then they got to be able to block a little bit. Then you run the ball because there's smaller personnel in the game. So Kevin Stefanski likes to get in that empty and that 2x2 and 3x1 and create mismatches with those tight ends with big personnel groups. And obviously they like to run the ball as well too. So more than anything else, going back to Burden, they need guys who like to play football. They need guys who are irritated when they're on the line. That's one of my favorite things about Travis Hunter. Just guys who like to play. Harold Fannin is a very good football player. He runs well after catch. His production is through the roof. He did it against big schools. He's a mismatch issue, especially in the red zone. I think Harold Fannin, again, there's a lot of really good tight ends that I wouldn't be upset if the Browns picked, and a lot of good tight ends that are going to be picked on day 3 that are going to be impactful in the NFL because of the depth of that position.
So we're looking him 3rd round?
Anywhere he can go, just because, a lot of guys, once again, I say it all the time, you only need one guy to like you, right? But he's a unicorn, right? He's only 6'3", 240 pounds. He can't be a traditional tight end who puts his hand on the ground. But what he can be is he can be a guy who flexes out. He can be a guy who's a motion guy. He can be a guy you can split outside with one. And if they want to put a corner on him, he's a mismatch at 240 pounds. He catches the ball so well. He runs great routes. He's really good over the middle of the field. He's quarterback friendly. Great hands. Like I said, he runs really well. With him and Burden, the focus for me is get the ball in space and let these guys run. Right. That's what the Browns need. So I think Harold Fannin, the Loveland kid out of Michigan, is really, really good. Mason nice. Taylor, who was just in, he's an elite athlete. Guy I work with, Dan Lobby here. He loves Mason Taylor because he's 20 years old. And, I'm old because I played against his dad when he was at Akron. So
really?
Oh yeah. I was at Kent when he was at Akron. And I will just say this, when you see a pro, it's a lot different than the rest of us. Those guys are elite. And, Mason Taylor's another one, but there is so many good tight ends this year that fit the bill. You look at a guy like Luke Lachey, he could be the guy from Iowa who puts his hand on the ground. So they're going to, like you said, they're going to have to draft a couple and then maybe get a couple in free agency. That being said, there'll be some guys who don't get drafted who are really good football players too at that position.
Interesting. And we're looking at the production side for Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green Falcons. This last year, 117 catches, 1,555 yards, averaged 13.3 per reception, 10 touchdowns, and also ran one in. That's a nice little bonus as well on nine carries too. Yankee, you were mentioning in motion, 9 carries, averaged 7.2 yards a carry. That's not bad. Okay, interesting. So another weapon. Be creative. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands. I like it. Now we go to the defensive side of the ball. And the Browns, boy, on that side, safety's huge. You need safety. Linebackers, never a bad thing. But this Darius Alexander takes us on the D-line, right?
Well, like you said, safety-wise, I love Billy Bowman late in the draft. I love Jeff Bassa out of Oregon for linebacker. Billy Bowman plays that safety really well. He'd be a great one-high hat. Darius Alexander is a guy that it really intrigues me, and he's a guy that a guy like Andrew Berry really likes. And people ask me, what are some of the things that Andrew Berry looks for on day 2 and 3? And one of the things he looks for is traits, right? So how old is a guy and what is his potential? And for me, I'm not as much on potential as I want potential, but I also want production. I don't want guys who are weight room guys only. Darius Alexander is a guy for me. He finished top 10 in every measurement at the combine. And when you watch him on film, he does a great job. He's got some work to do. He's 6'4", he's 305 pounds, but he's a guy who has elite skills. Again, he's a guy who plays multiple positions. He can play the DT. He can play out at the defensive end. He dropped in coverage. He had an interception this year. He did a lot of really good things, but he's a guy that was really good at the Senior Bowl against the elite of the elite, and he looked like a man-child at the Senior Bowl. So, he's a guy that, position for me, I'm always about, I try to stick to my guns, and you have to always replenish those offensive and defensive linemen because that's where you win football games. You don't win them with skill. You win them with up front. Now, the Browns are in a tough situation because they need some skill too. So, and, the offensive line will get back to being a little bit better because of the going back to their scheme. So my thought here is that you got to get a defensive tackle who can give you some, they went from a really deep defensive tackle room to not so deep when they lost Dalvin. And Dalvin's a big loss because of what he does against the run. So love Darius Alexander. I love his base. I love his balance. I love his ability to drive the guard back into the
that's what we
backfield.
Need that push.
And he's just he's a really athletic kid who's only going to get better. He's got a great frame on him. Plays long. Like I said, he finished top 10 in every measurement at the combine. So just a guy I really like on film, and a guy who's got a really could come in on third downs or come in every 3 or 4 series and just be a great motor guy because of his skill set.
Well, let's take a look, Shane. Pop him up, please. Darius Alexander.
See him here at the 3 technique. He's going to take that right guard from Pitt and kind of just drive him back in. Then you're going to see his ability to anchor and kind of take on guards. They're going to try to reach him on a zone there. Then you're going to see him drop. He drops. He's a nose dropper, and he's going to pick the ball off. And you're going to see his ball skills, his ability to run with the ball after catch. Those are, obviously what that shows you. It just shows you his raw athletic ability. And now you're going to see him here out at the end. So again, that position flexibility. He just takes that tackle and drives him straight back into the backfield. He does that consistently, no matter who he plays. And one things he's gonna, the things that you can work on, he can fix. The things that you can't work on, size, length, those are the things he has, and those are the things that Andrew Berry likes when he drafts those guys. He also has production. I think you're right. They could go linebacker here with Jeffrey Bassa, a Campbell kid out of Alabama. They could go Malachi Starks, who I think will be gone by then, but he's a really good safety. Billy Bowman. There's some really good safeties out there. Billy Bowman's a good one. There's a guy, a linebacker, Samuel Munden from Georgia, who is a better athlete than he is a football player, but he's a perfect scheme fit for Schwartz. So they have a lot of options, and with the defense they run, they can get guys that kind of fit what they do because they have some solid frontline guys. So they have to improve that defensive tackle against the run. Hopefully JOK will be okay. And they, obviously if they go Hunter first, they're going to have just an elite secondary, maybe getting Billy Bowman in the 5th round, who will be around. But there's some guys out there for the positions that need that will really help the Cleveland Browns.
So, Lance, you're telling me that guy who I just saw run on the screen is 305 pounds at that speed?
Yeah, no, he's
outrageous.
Well, and when you go to the combine, so the thing for me is that I don't really take too much stock in the combine. I try to, when I look at the combine and a guy wows me at the combine like Alexander did, then I go back and watch the film because I'm just like everybody else. It's just an opinion of what what I see. And for me, those defensive tackles that move like that, those are the hardest guys to block.
Right.
Because if you against Myles Garrett, for me, not saying Myles Garrett, but you would have a plan. The plan probably wouldn't work against Myles, but you would chip him, you'd run away from him, you'd run at him, you would do a bunch of things. If, what do teams do against Denzel Ward? You throw away from Denzel Ward, right? So you can kind of avoid those guys. Those guys interior, those Mike backers, those 3 techniques. If those guys are high level players, they're a mess. They're just wreckers because you can't do a lot with them. It's hard to double them. It's hard to do things. So I just think Darius Alexander has a ton of talent, and there's so many different the positions they need. There's so much depth. They can address some players and then address their needs in late rounds because there's so many good players at the positions they need.
Boy. Yeah, I kind of want this Darius Alexander guy, Lance. You got me excited about another one here. What round? Again, another third-ish type of?
Yeah, third-ish to fourth. Obviously
he plays in thirds.
He plays in the MAC again. But once again, this day and age, the MAC isn't what it was, 20 years ago. There's guys, I played in the back in the 90s. I couldn't have played in the Big Ten. These guys who play in the MAC, they can play anywhere now. These guys, these front level guys at these group of 5 schools, they're just as good as the Power 4 schools. But with the Power 4 schools, they got 3 guys at the position that are just as good, right? And that's right. It's more depth. Obviously, the frontline guys, the Abdul Carters, the Hunters, sure, those guys are elite. If Hunter's the number 1 pick in the draft, he played at Jackson. He played at Jackson State first. So it just comes down to finding guys. Sometimes those guys in the MAC, they go and they grow, and they been a lot of really good players out of the MAC that've been in the NFL. Those frontline guys in the MAC are really, really good football players, and this is one of them.
Boy, 2nd, 3rd round pick. Give me some Darius Alexander, please. I like that a lot. Okay, let us know what you think on the players that we talked about there. Who do you want the Browns to take a quarterback with the number 2 pick, 33? Let us know. But we're going to do a mock draft with Lance. Congratulations. You've been promoted to Browns general manager. It just happened. Breaking news. You're in. And you, sir, are going to make the first 2 picks of this Browns draft. We have the draft simulator. The Pro Football. Have you played around with this, Lance? The Pro Football.
I have. Yeah.
It's fun.
No, yeah. We've done I'm on a Browns podcast, and we do a mock draft each week. And these mock drafts are they're pretty fun.
They're so cool. I love it. You're mixing the trades and all that. It's a ton of fun. So what we're going to do is not what we think the Browns will do, but what new GM Lance Reisland is going to do, would do, if you were Browns general manager. You ready to go?
I'm ready to roll.
Okay, man. We're on the clock. Producer Shane, let's go. The draft is on. Cam Ward, no surprise. Okay, we're on the clock. We got a choice of everybody, not Cam Ward. What would you do?
Well, since I just signed Joe Flacco, we're going to go with Travis Hunter. And for all the things we talked about, his ability to play both sides of the football, I would actually have him as a secondary guy first. And then offense, I would create 10 to 12 touches, not a position. He would be positionless. He would be a touch guy. Obviously, the Browns would be elite on defense now. Now, if they do have some struggles defensively, they can go man coverage and crowd that line of scrimmage because they're going to have 2 elite corners. Touch-wise, all you got to do is get him the ball in space, RPOs, bubble screens, things like that. Don't overthink it on offense. Just get him the ball in space, green grass. It's got to be Travis Hunter there. It would possibly be Mason Graham, but I'm going to go Travis Hunter just because of the versatility and the Browns needing impact talent on both sides of the ball.
Well, and the thing is, too, as we zip through there, Travis Hunter, the pick, is that we know we love Denzel Ward, and we'll get to this trade in a sec, but we love Denzel Ward, Lance, but misses at least 2 games a year, if not 4. So,
well, the thing about that. Yeah, the thing about Denzel Ward is that Denzel Ward, and this is what scares me about Travis Hunter, is that when I break down his film, the thing about Travis Hunter is he's fearless. And when you're fearless, that's not always a great thing at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening, and Denzel Ward is, I'm biased. He's a Nordonia kid. He's Northeast Ohio, played for Coach Fox out of Nordonia. He's a mean kid. He's a mean player. So he's not afraid of contact. But what happens when you're 185 pounds and you're running into these, there's sometimes that you see these guys and you're just like, how do they not get hurt? So his willingness to be physical is the same thing that happens with, I've had people say, oh, Ward needs to stick his head in there. I don't want Ward to stick his head in there sometimes. I want him to stay out if necessary because his best ability is his availability. And so I think, obviously you would like to have both those guys in the field, but that does worry you about Hunter a little bit because he's fearless. He likes to tackle.
Let us know if you want Travis Hunter more as a receiver or defensive back. Leave the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, SickPodBrowns at AndyMC81. All right, Lance, we got a trade from the New England Patriots for the Browns' 33rd pick and pick 179. The Pats are offering 38 and pick 77. There are 2 trade offers. What do you think of this deal?
I'm gonna stick with 33. With 33, and I'm hoping Luther Burden is gonna be available.
So click reject. Now we got, now this is interesting. Tennessee, we drop 2 spots and get next year's 3rd. Does that intrigue you, or are you want to stick with 33?
No, I like to. The trades don't. Obviously those. I'm a more of like I need guys right now, so I'm gonna stick with 33, and I'm gonna try to get Luther Burden if he's available.
Let's see. So we're clicking that now. Let's see some of the names on the board. We have quarterback Jackson Dart. He's still there. We have Gray Zabel, the offensive tackle. Jalen Milroe. No, we do not want Jalen Milroe. Kenneth Grant, who I really like as a defensive tackle as well. You go down a little bit. Yeah, we got Mason Taylor, so Travion Henderson, he's still there. Running back could be a good thing as well. Shane, can you scroll up on the draft site just to see who was taken a little bit before? Does that allow you to do that? Okay, there we go. Go up to where the Browns picked, and let's just scroll through real brief just to see. So we got Hunter Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Will Johnson. Mason Graham wasn't. Jags are taking Mason Graham. They're not letting him fall that far. Giente at 6 to the Raiders. Shedeur Sanders to the Jets at 7. What's your thoughts real quick on Shedeur? Do you think he's going to be he's the one we're going to have eyeballs on? He's the potential faller in this thing.
Yeah, I think he's I'm really high on him. If the Browns can get Flacco, and I wouldn't be mad if they still drafted him. Why? I think anticipation and accuracy travels well to the NFL, and he's elite at both. He threw over 70% of his passes. Played for Pat Shurmur, so he understands NFL concepts. I'm pretty big on Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a really good player.
In this case, in this mock, it says Shedeur to the Jets, Mason Graham to the Bengals. Oh boy, they would be streaking to the podium to make that. They need that desperately on defense. Matthew Golden, I like. Shamar Stewart to the Dolphins. Jalen Walker drops to 14. Interesting. McMillan, 17 to the Saints. Looks like there was a trade. You have Colson, your guy, Colson Loveland to the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Harmon, too. I like Harmon.
Yeah, Harmon's a really good football player. Long,
Big Buka.
heavy.
We like a Buka for the from Ohio State. Goes to the Broncos. Hampton to the Steelers after a trade. It looks like that'd be good for them. Walter Nolan, James Pierce, Malachi Starks. You talked about him, the safety. And there you go. Okay, so that's who we have. So we have only in this mock only 2 quarterbacks taken. I think, Lance, someone's going to get thirsty and reach for a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe back into the first round. They might not take him where it is, but I'd be very surprised if only 2 QBs went in the first round.
Well, yeah, and Milroe intrigues you because of once again, there's a guy out there that loves his athletic ability. And I will say this about Milroe, his production at the Senior Bowl compared to his pro day, you can tell he put a lot of work in, which tells me he's a hard worker. So you hear nothing but good things about him as a human being, which is important for me more than any other position, because you got to be the first guy there, last guy to leave every single day. That idea of the type of person he is big, and you run a 4.3. There's somebody out there that's thinking I can do a lot of things with this guy on offense. So,
I hope it's just not the Browns. Personally, I want nothing to do with them, Lance. But I understand what you're saying. So
that's what I'm saying. Now, is Luther Burden available?
Let's see. He is at 30. So we have the top 3 ranking: Gray Zabel, offensive guard. We're not taking a guard. Jackson Dart, if you want QB. Luther Burden, wide receiver, Missouri, is there.
That's the pick. Put the card in.
But Luther Burden, the third, gets the pick for the Browns. So that would be the first 2 picks. Travis Hunter, we say no to a pair of trades and take Luther Burden the third. So you got the weapon, offense, defense, whatever that might look like for the Browns with Travis Hunter, and then Luther Burden. Now let's say, Lance, if the Browns say, like Andrew Berry said, you know what, Travis Hunter, receiver first, and we use him situationally on defense. Let's say that's their focus. He's going to be the receiver.
Okay.
Who else would you take at 33 if not another receiver?
Are you talking for what we had there?
Yeah.
I would go with that. It's boring, but Gray Zabel is for what the Browns want to do offensively. Gray Zabel played all 3 positions at North Dakota State. The Bison always produce offensive linemen through the roof. What he does is he's mean. So he fits that mold of the Wyatt Teller, Joe Bitonio. Okay. Obviously, they're going to have to. He would come in and compete with Zinter. He's my number 1 interior guy, just because of his flexibility. And when you go out to, it's funny, and I learned this too. And I'm learning. I try to be a lifelong learner. But when you go out to an NFL practice and you go to camp and you're like, all right, it looks like a high school practice. There's 100 guys out there.
Yeah.
When they cut it down to 53, there's 7-8 linemen. So some of those linemen have to be really versatile. So you're talking about a guy, there's another fact about Travis Hunter. There's a guy that 53-man roster, especially those offensive linemen. You need a swing tackle, but Gray Zabel can actually be a swing everything. He can play center, guard, and tackle. And so, yeah, and it wouldn't, the argument that I would give myself on those 2 picks is, well, you got Hunter and then you got Burden. But I think the Browns need an influx of talent. So that would be my argument, whatever it is. So if it's a DB, if it's a punt returner, if it's a kick returner, if it's in the slot, if it's outside, I wouldn't want Travis Hunter in the slot too much because of the fact slots get hit a little bit more, and you're gonna try to limit his contact. And Burden's a bigger, thicker kid. So that would be my argument. But I will never ever argue with going high level offense and defensive linemen. Because those, Kenneth Grant is he's an anchor in there. Tyleik Williams, I had Graham and Kenneth Grant as my top 2 tackles. And then I had a list of guys, Sanders and Nolan, and including Tyleik Williams. Tyleik Williams is actually, I think he has every bit his chance to be as good as Graham and Grant in the NFL. 6'3", 235 pounds with Ohio State. I'm breaking down Sawyer and JT Tuimalio, and he's the guy that I think he'll be the best player on that defensive line in the NFL. I don't think it'll really be close because of his movement skills. He came to Ohio State at 360. So there's another guy, right? So those interior guys that are elite players are hard to find. So you're never wrong. People don't like those picks. I remember when Joe Thomas's picked because they're boring, right? They're boring and people want, splash. And I agree. The Browns do need some splash, but the only way you get splash is if you have guys protecting up front and you have guys who can keep people off linebackers, et cetera, on the defense. You win up front, both sides of football. So those are always solid picks.
Last one for you here, Lance. If this came to be, we got to take a quarterback sometime. Who would be your QB pick now? I guess with the 3rd round pick, you'd have, who knows? Tyler Shuck's been rising up the boards. Is that bluster? Is that real? Will Howard, my guy's still there. Probably is there. If you're looking 3rd round range, who would your QB be that you would take?
Well, the only concern people have with Tyler Shuck is that he's 25 years old, which I think is legit. It's a legit concern. However, the Brandon Whedon comparisons don't work for me, and
No.
here's why. Because in college, when Whedon came out, college football is a lot different than the NFL football. Now a lot of these college concepts are now pro concepts. So the
Mhm.
connection between college and pro is a lot more than it used to be. And he played at Louisville, and he played for guys who understand how to run offenses, right? So when you play in a scheme like that, I have Tyler Shuck as my third quarterback. So and he's really, really good. Now, if he's a guy who can come in and play and maybe play in a year, so he's 26, he plays in a year, he's 20, 26, he plays 6 to 8 years, and he's really a good quarterback, you take that, right? I think people would. However, I understand those concerns. I like Will Howard too. Now, I want to
Mhm.
see Will Howard. Will Howard has a couple things against him that can be obviously it's not he can't do it. People just need to see it. One is, can you play when the talent is equal? Because at Ohio State, the talent was not equal this year.
Right.
He had, Mbuka's a first round pick, and he's been the second best receiver after receivers graduate. So that's how talented they are at Ohio State. And can he drive the ball from 15 to 25 yards? Because in Ohio State, especially in the playoffs, which he did a great job, he threw the ball vertically and he threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage on screens. So now he makes great decisions. The way he throws the ball vertical tells me he can drive the ball. But
Right.
that's gonna be what I want to see. Breaking down his film, that's why I don't have him as high as Shuck. I actually like Brady Cook a lot more than people like him out of
I
Missouri.
like Cook. Give me that guy. I think you get him probably 6th round. Browns have like 4 6th round picks. Give me a Brady Cook, one of those. I'm totally with you on Brady Cook as like the second QB. Bring in and see.
Now, and I will say this just to kind of throw myself under the bus here a little bit. You and I and everybody else, there's not a position that we're all wrong on more than the quarterback. And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's the it factor. Do they are they the confidence level? Do they take care of their bodies? How do they do with their downtime? How do they do with moving on their own? Having all this money. Oh, there's a ton of things that go into being successful quarterback. Are they film rats? Do they like to watch film? Do they love football? Do they like it,
Mhm.
or do they love it, or do they love money? There's a lot of things that tie in with a lot of different people. So, um, the quarterback position is really, really interesting, and there will be guys who we think are going to be outstanding, and there's guys who we
Yeah.
don't think are going to be good. Bo Nix, I was not high on last year. He got in the right system. Jalen Milrow,
Landing spot's so big.
you
So
know,
big.
Jalen Milrow, for me, I could not been more wrong on Lamar Jackson when he came out. I thought he was going to be a good quarterback. I didn't think he was going to be this
Mhm.
to be able to throw the ball. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a top 5 pocket passer now, along with his skill set. So as a runner, so you know, you never quite know. I was a Baker Mayfield fan
Me too.
when he came out, and Mary Kay Cabot, who I love talking with Mary Kay and getting the opportunity. She was a huge Josh Allen fan because of how big he was and how fast he was, and she was right on with him. I didn't see it like that. Played at Wyoming, so it's just you just never know with the quarterback position, just because the it factor we can't measure. You
Yeah.
can measure tackle and guards and all the other positions people like us talk about. You can kind of get a feel on, and how good are you? There's the it factor that you can't measure, and one of these guys will have it that we didn't think did, and one of these guys won't have it that we think will. There'll be a first rounder that won't pan out, and that's just
Yeah.
that's what the facts tell you.
That's what it is. And again, the landing spot's so important. Like if Josh
Hmm.
Allen went to the Jets like Sam Darnold, I don't know if he'd be in the league because of the
Hmm.
development factor, right? So important with that landing spot. So, boy, Lance, we're a week away, man, and then we
Yeah,
get to do it for real. Are you
yeah.
doing any? Are you doing draft night specials? Doing anything live? Cleveland.com. What are
Yeah,
you
I'd
doing?
be, I don't, I've been contacted by people I work with at Cleveland.com, Sports for Cleveland. So yeah, they're doing some stuff, and I'm available, and whatever people need. If you want to talk a little bit, let me know. I can jump on whatever you need.
Beautiful.
It's going to be an interesting draft. I think everybody's highly anticipating just because the Browns have that first pick. Um, Obviously we'll see what happens. They got to address the quarterback position.
Mm.
But I think they have, and it'll be interesting what they do. They're pretty, they keep their pretty lock and key around
Yeah.
here. I'm not somebody who would know, but I know people that I think would, and they don't know much either. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. We're going to do a live draft show, so I'll be in touch. Maybe we can get you on at some point as well. That'll be fun, buddy. And people find you at your work, cleveland.com, and tell them we're on social as well.
I'm on X and I'm on Instagram. It's just at Lance Reisland, LanceReisland. Real simple.
There it is, right on the screen. Beautiful. Lance, always love it, buddy. Thank you so much.
As always, thanks for having me. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. There he goes. Lance Reisland from cleveland.com and Cleveland high school football coach with some more great breakdowns of possible prospects for the Browns, right? Like, I am so nervous about what they're going to do at quarterback, folks. I got a bad feeling about Jalen Milroe. I do. You know it. You watch this show. Say no for Milroe. That's my hashtag. Say no for Milroe. Not interested. I just think if you want a weapon, Lance was talking about Luther Burden. Travis Hunter is a weapon. I got that. I can get that. Use him. You want a running back? How about Travion Henderson or Judkins from Ohio State? Or my guy, Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. 4th round, you get him. I don't need because guess what? If you put package plays for Jalen Milroe in the game, guess what? The defenses know he's not throwing the ball. He's going to run. So what are we going back to Wildcat, Josh Cribbs? That worked when Cribbs did it when it was new. You're going to go Wildcat? Good time. I do not want a running quarterback whose weakness is throwing the ball. I will say this until I run out of breath. If your weakness is throwing the football and you're a quarterback, no good. No good. No thanks. You want to take him in the 5th round? Have at it. 33? I'll go bananas. Can't have it. I would much rather reach for a Will Howard who has that upside. Even a Shuck, who, some injuries too. I'm not as high on him as Lance, but I understand what he's saying with it. Jackson Dart, certainly. Going to be interesting too, the Shedeur Sanders. Does he go to the Saints? Does he drop to 9? Did the Jets take him like we had in our mock? Does he go to the Raiders? Tom Brady? Does he fall further? Interesting. It's going to be so interesting. So we're going to be doing, make sure you're staying tuned. We'll be posting it on X, on Twitter, at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram, at AndyMCSports, when our live draft night show will be. We'll have a watch along, see what the Browns do at 2 start of the draft, and hang around and go over, have some guests and some fun along the way as well. So going to be a great time there. Thank you so much to our guest, Lance Reisland from Cleveland.com, for producer Shane, and to all of you. You've been watching the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. And as always, go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.